Mario Kart DS became one of Nintendo's most popular games, and we can see from early footage and the game's files that they originally planned for it to be a very different game. Early gameplay shows two different designs for a cut speedometer that would have gone on the top screen. One looks very basic, and the other is very colourful, and would have been like the one seen in Mario Kart Double Dash. Also, early footage and a kiosk demo shows that the logo changed a lot, again originally looking like what would have been seen in Mario Kart Double Dash. Some early gameplay shows item icons that got changed before the final release, and a US demo for stores also had these icons left in its files. The Boo didn't have its tongue sticking out, the Blooper looked completely different and more like Gooper Blooper from Super Mario Sunshine, the lightning bolt was encased in a grey ball, the star had a smiling mouth, the shells were less shiny, and the mushrooms had a different design. In addition to the changed item icons, there are three completely unused item icons. There's a Chain Chomp, a purple Koopa shell, and Double Dash's Bowser shell. The Chain Chomp also went unused in Mario Kart Wii, but in that version it has the kanji for temporary. The icon for the game on the DS home screen was this in the early demo, but got changed to this in the final game. Like in an early version of Double Dash, the demo says go on the screen at the start of a race, instead of saying start. The gradient on the text at the start of a race is also different, and the resolution of the text was lowered, possibly to save on space. Text saying temporary and pause can be seen on this early communication error screen, and can be shown with this action replay code. The bottom screen changes when pressing X. One shows an unused background with the first 15 letters of the hiragana script, another shows a black background, and one shows part of Yoshi Circuit's minimap. Other early versions of minimaps exist in this version too. Most lack a lot of the detail that they have in the final game. There's Mario's Circuit with black lines for the track edges, Tick-Tock Clock with numbers on the watch face and differently sized gears, Airship Fortress with no blue background, Bowser's Castle with a more orange background, Rainbow Road with no stars in the sky, Wario Stadium missing the edges of the track, Desert Hills made of just solid colours, Delfino Square with a brown bridge that doesn't have any boost panels, and Shroom Ridge with a black void instead of trees. Unlike the others, Yoshi Circuit has two early versions. One is very similar to the final version, but lacks the water texture for the background. The other one, which is shown on the early communication error screen, lacks most of its detail, and is mainly made of solid colours. The top screen of the early communication error screen shows some Mario sprites from Mario Bros. Classic. Nintendo left a whole bunch of unnecessary sprites from this game in the files as well. Other unused graphics in this kiosk demo's files include the cut speedometer from earlier. Also, there is a countdown light that Lakitu would have held up before a race. This would have been like in Double Dash. There are 8 early menus with a similar style to Mario Kart Double Dash. First, you probably would have seen this screen with the options saying play alone, play with everyone, record, options, and back. Next, you'd see a screen with 4 cup icons. It says Nitro Grand Prix at the top, and Oldies Grand Prix at the bottom, instead of Retro Grand Prix. The third screen was probably this speed selection screen saying Grand Prix at the top. The next screen says please select a character in Japanese. This probably would have gone on the top screen, with this screen beneath it. It shows 8 character icons from Double Dash, with back written at the bottom. Next is an early kart selection screen, with 3 red fire karts from Double Dash, and the word back at the bottom again. Also, the kart has speed, acceleration, and weight ratings. Lastly, you probably would have seen this red screen saying, is this good? With the options OK and back. Another screen is an early name entry screen, saying which data will you use? The name already on the screen says Ishiro, which is probably Ishiro Suzuki, who was responsible for item programming, according to the game's credits. The next bit of text says Nintendo. There's also create new entry data, edit entry data, and erase entry data. Speaking of unused menus, in this early version there is also an early design for the Emblem editor, accessible with this action replay code. It's extremely basic compared to the final version and doesn't even have an eraser. There's another early Emblem editor left in the final game's files, which looks a lot more like what can be found in the final game. It's split into a bunch of different sprites, so this is only a mock-up of how it would have fit together. We can see that there is still no eraser, meaning that emblems may not have been able to have a transparent background in early versions. Other unused sprites in the final game's files include this question mark, which would have gone in an early version of the item box, seen in pre-release screenshots. 2 early versions of the red and blue team emblems from Versus mode are also in the files. Shy Guy has an early character selection icon, but is only playable in single Kart DS download play, making this useless. Some placeholder icons include this placeholder for the cup icons, this placeholder for the emblems on the friends record screen, and this set of placeholders for the player icons on the battle results screen. There's also a placeholder for the bottom of the title screen saying press the A button, translated into 5 different languages. The Italian one doesn't have a shadow and is off-center. Nintendo didn't remove this debug font, which may have been used for some on-screen debugging displays that weren't left in the files. Text saying select game was also left behind. 13 early emblems were left in the files, and can be seen in some early alternate textures for the standard cards. Mario has a number 1 instead of an M, Peach is number 3, Yoshi is number 4, Toad says P5, Donkey Kong gets the number 6, Wario says 07, and Bowser is number 8. Similarly to the unused kart textures, there are some unused objects in the files too. There's a block called test_Brock, which is a test model for the moving blocks from Bowser's castle. The Shine sprite has a clone with a more detailed palette than the one shown in the final game. A more cartoony looking model for the yellow car from the Mushroom Bridge track exists. It's got headlights that look like eyes and a more rounded design. The US kiosk demo from earlier has an early texture for a Mushroom Bridge truck. Instead of saying fresh like it does in the final game, it says flesh. This version also contains a coin with a star on it, like the ones from Super Mario 64, a cactus, and an early model for the sun from Desert Hills, with text just saying sun. The final game has an unused Shy Guy model, which is very low poly, as he's just a cylinder, instead of having modelled feet and hands. Professor Gadd from Luigi's Mansion was originally intended to appear in this game, as a folder can be found called Oyama, which is his Japanese name. Unfortunately, his model, voice clips, and all other graphics for him were not included in this game, and just used Toads. His name does show up though. However, in the final game, he was replaced with Drybones. There are a few unused tracks in the files. One is called test_circle and was probably used for testing laps and items, as it's extremely short. Another interesting track is called test1_course, where developers would test out gameplay elements and the collision of objects. A completely scrapped piece of music for a track was left in the US kiosk demo's files. Here's what it sounds like. We've covered some of the other Mario Kart games on the channel before, so click here to see if we've done a video on your favourite one. If not, you can check out our Mario Games playlist by clicking here. Thanks for watching!